Chapter 4. The Mechanics of Wealth. If Chapter 3 showed you where your money goes, this chapter will show you something even more important: how money behaves once it gets there. Most people spend their entire lives earning, saving, and spending without ever understanding the forces that act on their money every single day. They assume wealth comes from a higher salary, good luck, the right connection, or a rare opportunity. When progress fails to appear, they blame circumstances. Yet beneath all of this lies a quieter truth. Money follows rules, and whether you understand those rules or not, they still apply. Wealth is not created by effort alone. It is created by how money grows, how it shrinks, how it moves, and how it is either protected or exposed. These processes are not dramatic. They do not announce themselves. They work silently, steadily, and relentlessly in the background of everyday life. There are four forces in particular that shape nearly every financial outcome: compounding, inflation, interest, and taxes. Compounding determines whether money grows slowly into something powerful or remains stagnant for decades. It rewards patience, consistency, and time, and punishes delay. Many people underestimate compounding because its early effects are small and unexciting. But over the long term, it becomes one of the most powerful engines of wealth ever created. Those who understand it begin early, even with small amounts. Those who ignore it often work harder for far less. Inflation works in the opposite direction. It quietly erodes purchasing power. What feels like stability today becomes insufficiency tomorrow. Savings that appear safe slowly lose strength if they are not growing faster than inflation. This is why people who did everything right still struggle years later. Inflation does not require mistakes to cause damage. It only requires neglect. Interest is another force that can either work for you or against you. When you earn interest, money supports you. When you pay interest, especially high-interest consumer debt, money works against you. Many Filipinos unknowingly spend years feeding interest instead of benefiting from it. Small monthly payments feel manageable, but the long-term cost is devastating. Understanding interest changes how you borrow, how you save, and how you invest. Taxes are often treated as unavoidable losses, something to endure rather than understand. Yet taxes shape nearly every financial decision. They affect income, investments, businesses, and inheritance. Those who ignore tax mechanics pay more than necessary. Those who understand them structure their finances more efficiently. Taxes are not just deductions on paper. They are a real force that either limits or preserves wealth depending on how they are handled. These four forces are always at work. They do not wait for permission. They do not care about effort, intention, or fairness. They simply respond to structure. This is why two people with similar incomes can experience vastly different financial outcomes. One unknowingly fights these forces and slowly loses ground. The other learns to align with them and make steady progress with less stress. The purpose of this chapter is not to overwhelm you with technical jargon or formulas. It is to make these forces visible. Once seen clearly, they stop being mysterious. Once understood, they become predictable. And once predictable, they become manageable. When you understand the mechanics of wealth, money stops feeling random. You begin to see why certain decisions compound over time, while others quietly destroy progress. You stop reacting to outcomes and start designing them. This chapter marks a shift from managing money at the surface level to controlling what happens beneath it. Because when you understand how money truly works, you stop being a passenger in your financial life. You become the driver. 4.1. How money grows. The magic of compounding. Albert Einstein once called compounding the eighth wonder of the world. That statement may sound exaggerated until you see what compounding actually does over time. Compounding is not complicated. It is simply money earning money and then allowing those earnings to earn more money. Growth building on top of growth. Interest stacking on interest. returns multiplying quietly year after year. It is slow at the beginning, almost invisible, which is why many people ignore it. But given enough time, it becomes unstoppable. This single principle is what separates a retirement fund that eventually runs out from a wealth system that continues to grow even while you sleep. To understand compounding properly, forget complex formulas and imagine two ordinary Filipino workers. Both are disciplined. Both invest the same amount, 3,000 pesos per month. Both earn a modest, realistic return of 8% per year. There is no advantage in income, intelligence, or opportunity. The only difference between them is timing. The first worker starts at age 25. The second starts 10 years later, at age 35. At the 20-year mark, both appear equal. Each has accumulated roughly 1.7 million pesos. At this point, many people would conclude that starting early did not matter much. And this is where most misunderstand compounding. Because compounding does not reveal its power early, it reveals it later. When the first worker continues for another 10 years, something remarkable happens. The money accelerates. At 30 years, the fund grows to over 4 million pesos. Continue another 10 years, and it reaches more than 10 million pesos. The growth no longer comes mainly from monthly contributions, but from the accumulated returns, earning returns on themselves. The second worker never experiences this phase. By starting late, the most powerful years of compounding are lost. Despite the same effort, the same discipline, and the same return rate, the outcome is dramatically different. Not because one was smarter or richer, but because one started earlier. Compounding rewards time, not talent. It rewards consistency, not income level. This same pattern explains a painful reality many Filipinos experience, especially overseas Filipino workers. Many OFWs earn high salaries and sacrifice deeply for their families. Yet investing is often postponed. Pagbalik ko na sa Pinas. Pagbayad na lahat ng utang. Pagsettled na pamilya. The intention is good, but the cost is enormous. Every year of delay is not just a year of missed contribution. It is a year of lost compounding, lost growth that can never be recovered. This is why a Filipino earning 30,000 pesos per month who invests early and consistently can end up wealthier than an OFW earning 100,000 pesos per month who starts late. The difference is not effort, it is timing. Compounding does not reward high salary alone. It rewards discipline applied early. Think of compounding as a time machine. The earlier you step inside, the farther your money travels into the future. Every peso invested today has decades to multiply. Every peso delayed must work harder in less time and often fails to catch up. This is why financial literacy is urgent. Not because investing is risky, but because delaying understanding is expensive. Every week, every month, every year you postpone learning and acting is growth that will never return. You do not need to start big. You need to start now. Because when compounding is on your side, time becomes your greatest ally. And when it is not, no amount of effort later can fully replace what was lost. 4.2 Inflation and how it destroys savings. If compounding is the force that builds wealth quietly over time, inflation is the force that destroys it just as quietly. The difference is that compounding rewards those who understand it, while inflation punishes those who ignore it. Inflation is the silent thief of the Philippines. It does not announce itself. It does not knock on the door. It does not feel dramatic. Life simply becomes more expensive year after year, and most people accept it as normal. Prices rise, budgets stretch, and what used to be enough slowly stops being enough. What makes inflation dangerous is that it attacks money that is standing still. When money is kept in cash, in a low-interest savings account, or simply set aside as ipon, it feels safe. The number does not go down. In fact, it often looks reassuring because it stays the same or increases slightly. But what most people do not realize is that value is different from amount. Inflation does not reduce the number of pesos you have. It reduces what those pesos can buy. This is why inflation is so deceptive. You feel secure because the balance is intact, but purchasing power is being drained year after year. Imagine something as ordinary as a grocery list. Today, your monthly groceries cost 5,000 pesos. You plan around that amount. You feel you are managing well. But inflation does not stop just because your habits remain the same. At an average rate of around 6%, that same basket of goods quietly becomes more expensive. After 1 year, it costs more than 5,300 pesos. After 5 years, nearly 6,700 pesos. After 10 years, close to 9,000 pesos. Nothing changed in what you bought. What changed was the value of money itself. In a single decade, your basic living cost almost doubled, even if your income did not. This is how inflation slowly tightens the noose. People feel like they are falling behind, even though they are working just as hard as before. Savings that once felt adequate begin to feel insufficient. Plans that seemed realistic suddenly feel out of reach. This leads to one of the biggest and most understandable Filipino mistakes: hoarding cash. Many Filipinos take pride in having savings, and they should. Saving requires discipline, but saving alone is not a strategy for the future. It is a strategy for emergencies. When savings are not paired with growth, they slowly weaken. Money that is meant to protect you today becomes incapable of protecting you tomorrow. Here is the uncomfortable truth. If your money is not growing faster than inflation, your future is shrinking. This does not mean you should abandon savings. Emergency funds are essential. They provide stability, peace of mind, and protection against short-term shocks. But emergency funds are not meant to build wealth. They are meant to buy time when something goes wrong. Investments serve a different purpose. They exist to fight inflation. They exist to preserve and grow purchasing power over the long term. Without them, even the most disciplined saver eventually loses ground. This is why financial literacy matters. It teaches the difference between safety and stagnation. It explains why money must be divided into roles, some for protection, some for growth. It helps you understand that doing nothing with money is not neutral. In an inflationary environment, doing nothing is a decision to lose slowly. Inflation will always exist. It cannot be negotiated with, avoided, or wished away. The only question is whether it will work against you or be neutralized by growth. Savings protect you in emergencies. Investments protect your future. Understanding this distinction is what allows Filipinos to stop running in place and start moving forward, even as prices continue to rise. 4.3. Understanding interest rates. Interest is the price of money. It is what you pay when you borrow and what you earn when you lend or invest. Simple as it sounds, interest is one of the most powerful forces shaping financial lives, often without people realizing it. Interest does not care who you are. It does not care how hard you work. It only cares whether it is working for you or against you. When interest works against you, it slowly drains your future. When it works for you, it quietly builds wealth in the background. Many Filipinos experience interest first in its most destructive form: debt. Credit cards, installment plans, personal loans, and informal lenders make borrowing feel easy. Payments are spread out, amounts feel manageable, but what is rarely felt is the weight of interest accumulating month after month. Credit card interest in the Philippines can reach levels that silently double or even triple the cost of what you bought. Loan sharks push this even further, trapping borrowers in cycles that feel impossible to escape. Late payments add penalties on top of penalties, turning small delays into long-term damage. Imagine buying a 50,000 peso appliance using a credit card. You intend to pay it off slowly, making only the minimum payments. Months pass, then years. By the time the balance is finally cleared, the total amount paid could reach 90,000 pesos or even 120,000 pesos. You did not just buy an appliance. You paid for the store's profit, the bank's profit, and interest on the interest itself. This is how interest becomes a machine. And when that machine works against you, it does not just inconvenience you, it crushes you quietly over time. What makes this especially dangerous is that interest working against you feels normal. It is marketed as convenience. It is framed as kaya naman bayaran. Yet behind the scenes, money is being redirected away from your future and into someone else's system. Now contrast this with what happens when interest works for you. When you invest, interest changes roles. It stops being your enemy and becomes your employee. Instead of draining you, it supports you. Your money earns returns. Those returns stay invested. And then those earnings begin earning on their own. This is the same compounding force discussed earlier, but now seen through the lens of interest. The process is quiet. It is not dramatic, but it is relentless. Consider investing 5,000 pesos every month at a reasonable annual return of around 10%. In the early years, progress feels slow. After 10 years, the investment grows close to 1 million pesos. At 20 years, it crosses 3 million pesos. At 30 years, it approaches 10 million pesos. At that stage, most of the growth no longer comes from your monthly contributions. It comes from interest multiplying interest. This is the great reversal. You stop working for money, and money starts working for you. This does not require genius or extraordinary income. It requires patience, consistency, and understanding. It requires seeing interest not as something to fear, but as something to harness. Banks understand this perfectly. This is why they earn billions. They collect interest from borrowers and pay far less interest to savers. The system is designed to reward those who know how to position themselves on the right side of interest. Financial literacy is what allows you to make that shift. You do not escape the system by avoiding money. You escape it by understanding how it works. When you learn to minimize interest paid and maximize interest earned, financial life begins to change. Debt loses its grip. Growth gains momentum. You do not become wealthy by working harder forever. You become wealthy by letting interest work while you rest. Once interest is aligned in your favor, progress no longer depends solely on effort. It becomes structural. And structural advantages, once built, last a lifetime. 4.4 Taxes, the invisible partner in every peso. Whether you are aware of it or not, there is a silent partner involved in every peso you earn. This partner does not show up to meetings, does not share risk the way you do, and does not wait for permission. Yet it takes a portion of your income consistently and automatically. That partner is the government. Taxes are woven into almost every financial activity. They reduce your salary before it even reaches your hands. They cut into business income, investment returns, real estate earnings, capital gains, and even passive income. Because they are deducted quietly and regularly, many Filipinos treat taxes as background noise, something unavoidable and beyond control. This is where misunderstanding begins. Most people think taxes are fixed losses, something you simply accept, something you endure. But taxes are not just deductions, they are rules, and rules can be understood, navigated, and planned for. The painful reality is that many Filipinos overpay taxes, not because they are dishonest or careless, but because they do not understand how the system works. Employees miss legitimate deductions they are entitled to. Freelancers and professionals pay more than necessary because their income is not structured properly. Business owners operate informally or inefficiently, exposing themselves to higher tax burdens and penalties. Real estate sellers lose large sums simply because they are unaware of exemptions or timing strategies. Investors choose instruments without considering tax efficiency, quietly giving up returns year after year. In all these cases, the problem is not tax rates, it is lack of literacy. Taxes reward those who prepare and punish those who ignore them. This is why two people with the same income can end up with very different take-home results. One bleeds quietly, assuming nothing can be done. The other plans legally and keeps more of what they earn. This leads to a critical shift in mindset. Taxes are not something you fight emotionally. They are something you manage strategically. Understanding tax laws does not mean avoiding responsibility. It means using the law as it was intended, to guide behavior, encourage certain activities, and allow individuals to organize their finances efficiently. When you understand taxes, you gain leverage. You make better decisions about income sources, investments, and timing. You stop being surprised by deductions and start anticipating them. You treat taxes as part of the financial system, not an afterthought. This book will not turn you into a tax expert overnight. That is not the goal. The goal is awareness. In the chapters ahead, we will discuss simple, practical tax strategies suited for Filipino employees, freelancers, business owners, real estate investors, and retirees. Not loopholes, not shortcuts, but lawful ways to protect what you build. Your objective is straightforward. Earn honestly, plan intelligently, and keep as much of your hard-earned money as the law allows. Because when you understand taxes, you play the game with your eyes open. And when you ignore them, you lose quietly, peso by peso, without ever knowing why. Financial literacy does not remove taxes from your life. It simply ensures that they no longer control it. Closing reflection of Chapter 4. Money is not mysterious, it follows rules. When you understand compounding, inflation, interest, and taxes, you begin to grasp the true mechanics of wealth. You no longer fear money, you no longer guess, and you no longer simply react. Instead, you start to operate like a builder, with clarity, structure, and confidence. From this point forward, you are not just earning money, you are engineering your financial future. Action steps. Your wealth mechanics setup. 1. Start one investment today, even if small. Compounding begins with a single peso. 2. List all debts and categorize them, good versus bad. Plan to eliminate high-interest debt ruthlessly. 3. Compute your personal inflation impact. How much will your expenses be in 10 years? Awareness equals discipline. 4. Check how much tax you paid last year. If you don't know, that's the first problem. Awareness leads to optimization.